Welcome to Song Album Career. I'm Chris Bragg, and that's David Thurmaier. And today we're going to talk about a song where it's a rare case where the cover version is probably more famous than the original version. Today's episode is song Blinded by the Light. Now, Dave, did you know that Blinded by the Light is Bruce Springsteen's only number one hit?
You know, I read that. I can't believe that's true. Obviously, I read it in black and white, so it must be true. I saw that Dancing in the Dark is his other, like the closest that he got. That was a number two.
Yeah.
But it's hard to believe that, and Bruce's version of it went nowhere. So it was all thanks to Manfred Mann's Earth Band. Here we are.
Yeah, the common man, and several people I've brought this up to over the years don't even know this is a Bruce song, really.
Right.
I think the Bruce fan obviously knows it's a Bruce song, but most people know the Manfred Mann version. It gets such heavy play on classic rock radio.
Too much play.
Maybe a little too much play, but I guess that's a good place to start, though, Dave, is we asked this question with our other song. Do you like this song, Dave?
I like the Bruce Springsteen version. I think it's a lot more subdued. Well, it's not subdued, but it's less epic, not trying so hard. Maybe that's how I'd put it. It's just kind of a straight ahead verbal montage, mishmash lyrics of when Bruce was trying to be a Dylan knockoff when his first album. And so for that I like it. And then, yeah, like you said, I actually heard the Manfred Mann version before the Bruce version. So that I also came to it backwards. And I didn't like it all that much because it was a joke. The song was the big joke because of the lyrics, right?
Yeah, well, let's start with this. We'll talk about both versions, but let's start with this version most people know, and that's the cover version, Manfred Mann's Earth Band. Manfred Mann's Earth Band, one of we do a I've Got a Beatles podcast. We've been doing that for a long time. We've been doing a series on that about Beatle friends, and we were talking about Klaus Voormann. And Klaus Voormann actually has something to do with Manfred Mann's Earth Band being the name, Dave, right?
He played bass in the band when it was called Manfred Mann, because Manfred Mann's a guy, it's a person, but he was in that band for a while. Then he left in the late 60s, I think, and then kind of became a Beatle sideman and Beatle friend. But did he actually come up with the Earth Band as a name too?
Yeah, he suggested, well, you should change the name and make it more earthy because they were sort of changing styles a little bit, because they're, the early Manfred Mann was sort of a your typical knockoff Beatles group. Yeah, and they had the Mighty Quinn was their band. They're like many of their biggest hits are all cover versions. By the way. Yeah, so Klaus allegedly suggested that their style needed to change. So they were like, oh, you need to be earthier and rockier. And he just kept saying earthier, more down to earth. And so they changed the name to the Manfred Mann's Earth Band, which is a very strange name, don't you think?
Yeah, I do.
This iteration of the group, you have, of course, Manfred Mann is in the band throughout its history, but he just plays keyboards. He doesn't sing. Yeah, that's a kind of odd thing too. I guess Fleetwood Mac's kind of like that too. I guess
that's true. Yeah.
But Manfred Mann on keyboards. It's Chris Slade on drums, percussion, backing vocals. Colin Paddington on bass. Dave Flett on lead guitar, and Chris Hamlet Thompson on vocals and guitar. And it's on this album here, Dave, The Roaring Silence.
I can't believe you actually bought it.
Well, it's an embarrassing purchase because of the horrifically ugly,
terrible cover.
Terrible. One of the all-time worst covers with the mouth. You can see the mouth inside of the ear.
That's really bad.
And it's called The Roaring Silence. And this album, the whole album, the song definitely has this, but the whole album has a lot of extra stuff, extra sounds, and there's a song with a lot of like sort of seemingly like dolphin sounds in it.
Oh. This was 1976, so we're looking at the mid 70s here. A lot of keyboard. We're gonna, when we talk about the actual cover version, there's a lot of synth, and then there's that kind of sound on there. So it's very synth heavy, very 70s sounding. So I'm guessing the rest of the album has a similar effect to it.
It does.
Okay.
The music of this particular song, I do think it's interesting. Right from the beginning, it starts very oddly with a kind of that punctuated beat. You know, it's like and it's sort of in the middle of the musical line. Isn't that? And hasn't that always struck you a bit? I mean, many strange things about this song. But,
yeah. And it starts with the chorus too. Starts with which Bruce's version doesn't do. So it starts right out with the chorus with that zoom.
And then it gets into it. Like, hey, we got with the music. We got tons of this background stuff with the background vocals.
Yep.
You get violins. Of course, you have this famous like deedly guitar.
That guitar gets so annoying. I was listening. I was taking a walk this morning, and I had it in the headphones, and he just keeps playing that over and over and over again. That same riff.
I kind of like it
for a while. I like it
for a while, and then I think Dave too. I think this might be an agree to disagree because I do like this song. I do like this version, the Manfred Mann version of the song, and it's, I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites or anything like that, but I think that there's some great stuff about it and some interesting things here, at least musically.
Well, Chris, let me ask you though, because there's two different versions of the song. There's the album version, which is the really long one, and then there's the edit single version, which was the big hit. So what do you prefer?
Oh, the edit single version is garbage compared to the long version. You gotta have the long version, Dave.
Yeah, you missed that whole middle section with the kind of spacey Pink Floyd-ish jam in the middle there.
Well, that's the rhythm guitar's got a nice little flange on it, and and then you get these sort of seagull sounding little guitar licks.
Yep.
Right. And then of course you get that whiz sound effect.
Yep. Yep.
Which they put before the Calliope crash to the ground. But the section you were bringing up, this is the coolest section to me, is this very long, right at the 3-minute mark in the long version. It goes into this guitar solo with the organ. The organ kind of comes out a little bit, and it goes into this very good guitar solo. I think it's an excellent solo. And one thing that they do that I love here, and I can't think of too many other examples of this, Dave, where you get a lyrical reference, because he starts singing, "But mama, that's where the fun is," right, while they're jamming, to something they haven't sung yet. They have you don't have context for "Mama, that's where the fun is" until at the 4:30 mark. It sort of cuts off, and then he sings the full lyric. "Mama never told me not to look to the eyes of the sun, but mama, that's where the fun is." And I think it actually punctuates that and makes it like kind of cooler when that moment comes in.
Yeah, no,
does that make sense what I'm saying?
It makes sense to me, yeah, because they did take some liberties with the song, so they didn't do it exactly like Bruce. And well, of course, one of the things that we'll talk about is the mishearing, or they changed the lyrics right from the beginning, and so they make it, I guess, a dramatic. They try to make it a big, epic, dramatic production by doing the things you're talking about, by putting in the different production touches, having those vocalists, having the organ, all the different things, the halftime in the middle, and just changing it up to become that way. And it is a dramatic moment when it stops and he sings that line. That is a pretty good moment.
And then there's the moment right after this, Dave, which I know that you do not like at all. And this is probably the nadir of this song for you. And that's Chopsticks, Dave.
Yes. which I think wasn't the drummer responsible for that.
Yeah, he's like, why don't you just play chopsticks there?
Because that's what one thinks when you're when you're covering a tune. Like, hey, it needs something. What does it need? It needs chopsticks. That's what we need right now. Oh, yeah.
For those of you who don't know, chopsticks is like the most basic ever song that any child learns.
Yep.
When playing the piano. Of course, it's where anyone who's ever touched a piano has played chopsticks, right?
They can play it. Yeah, definitely. And it's brought in such a dramatic way too, that really brings such attention to it.
Yeah.
So
I'll agree with you there that part's kind of lame.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think towards the end? You get blinded by the light, but then the background vocals are singing the verse.
Yeah, it gets a little bit of counterpoint going, or counter melodies going. So I do kind of like that. At the end, it builds to that point where you've got the two different lines going. You've got the guitar. It builds. It's dramatic. So they took a song that wasn't particularly dramatic, and they made it into a 70s like production, very arty, kind of Queen like, or some other 70s ELP or somebody like that.
Yeah, I can see that comparison with Queen. ELP, like groups like that. And typically I'm not a huge I do like Queen, but I'm not the hugest fan of Say Your Yeses and
me neither.
Your real prog rocky things. So that's just my taste. So but I do like the song musically. Now we got to get to the elephant in the room, Dave. And that is the lyrics.
Yeah.
So you got, if there's a lyric that has been the all-time most misunderstood.
Do you think this is up there with "Excuse Me While I Kiss the Sky"?
Yeah, well, I kissed this guy.
Kiss this guy. Yeah. Do you think it's right up there with that? With
I think
Hendrix?
it's the number one. People, and of course, it's the word douche. Wrapped up
deuce.
like a douche is what most people have always heard.
Yeah.
Now, the original version with Bruce Springsteen was revved up like a. Oh, actually, it was cut loose like a deuce, meaning like a deuce coupe, like a
hot rod
car. And he's cut loose. So they're like, hey, let's make that. I don't know why they changed it to revved up, revved up like a deuce.
Yeah.
It definitely sounds like wrapped up like a douche. And I watched this funny Bruce Springsteen clip talking about it from his appearance on Storytellers, the VH1 Storytellers. And he said, well, my version says deuce. And they changed it to douche, which is a feminine sanitary product. I think it was a good idea because it made it number one.
Yeah.
So he
took it with good spirit then. Yeah.
He was sort of joking that they're changing it to douche is what made it number one. So I thought that was pretty funny. But so what do you think of I'm not even sure what more to say about the douche of it all.
The thing is that they asked maybe it was Manfred Mann or whoever the lead singer guy was. They asked him about it, and he said, "Oh, well, that happened because of a technical glitch. There was something in the recording process with the tape, and they could not go back and re-edit it. So it was actually supposedly he claims he actually was saying deuce, and but because of the tape and the way it was mastered, or I don't know exactly what, there's some technical reason why it comes out sounding like douche. And so that's,
Well, the next line is into the runner in the night.
Yeah.
So it's douche into the deuce into the, so douche. And it's just a rush that makes all the difference, Dave.
Yeah, it does. But part of it could be because they changed the lyric, and so Springsteen's original lyric is much more connected. The deuce makes sense because you're cut loose like a deuce.
Yeah.
And then they changed and got rid of loose, and that
Yeah.
takes away the rhyme. And
Exactly.
so it like kind of ruins it.
Revved up like a deuce.
Yeah. It
It
doesn't
just
make any
sounds
sense.
wrong.
Yeah, right.
Particularly because the rest of the song is so rhymey, and we'll get to that when we get to the Bruce part of it here. A couple other lyrics just that stand out in the song I just wanted to bring up here, particularly in the Manfred Mann version. Calliope crash to the ground, obviously, is a big one there.
Very dramatic.
In the dumps with the mumps. And then Go-Kart Mozart.
I like that one.
Is a good one. And I guess what happened is, just getting to the Bruce version here. Apparently, this is on Bruce's first album, and it's actually the first song on Bruce's first album. But the original album that he cut and presented to the record company didn't have this song, and nor did it have Spirit in the Night. And this is Greetings from Ashbury Park, which
I see over there. Yeah.
Much better album cover than
definitely.
Roaring Silence with the Manfred Mann, very tiny, and you can't even read it. So he presented the album to the record company, and then Clive Davis was like, gotta have a couple hits. And instead of throwing a fit or doing anything like that, Bruce is like, sure. Grabs his rhyming dictionary, apparently, and writes this song in very quick fashion. But that doesn't mean that it's just a throwaway thing that doesn't mean anything. And going back to that VH1 Storytellers, he was basically going through each lyric and saying that, for instance, like in Indians in the Summer, he's like, that's my little league baseball team I was on.
I like your imitation of the boss.
I'd suggest if you want to do a deeper dive on this tune, go through that Storytellers video. He basically goes through every lyric and talks about how some of them relate to his.
I think he said he was a teenage diplomat too. That was another self lyric, and of course all the car stuff you mentioned earlier. That's all because we know a lot of Bruce songs talk about cars and hot rods and things like that. So it's very much like the teenage boy kind of thing. So
let's talk more about the music in the Bruce. Definitely starts way differently. It starts with a sort of a interesting kind of lick, and you can. On that, I think it's the Storytellers version where it's just him and acoustic. You can really hear him sort of digging into the guitar lick right at the beginning there, Dave.
Yeah, you have to remember this, the first couple albums of Bruce, there was no Steve Van Zandt. He was the guitarist. Bruce played everything pretty much. And so if you want to listen to Bruce as a guitar player, it's great to check out his early albums. I think on the Greetings from Asbury Park, I think he's the only guitarist. And so you get to hear a lot of him playing in his style. And so, it starts out with that lick and the da-da-da, da-da-da.
It's a way peppier kind of
peppier with Clarence Clemens wailing on the sax. And
that's another thing. The because they went back and had to record a couple more tracks, Clarence Clemens was brought in for that, just that, and it's that song in Spirit of the Night, which if you think about parts. Both of those songs, fantastic Clarence Clemens, stand out. So that would, I believe, stick Clarence Clemens with the E Street Band from then until his passing. So and Spirit of the Night is comparing Bruce songs, it's hard to rank them, but I'd put Spirit of the Night way up there. Personally.
Oh, it's a great one.
I really, really enjoy that song. So
no, it's great. This Blinded by the Light is much more, like you said, peppier. It's like ragged, I think would be a good word, but in a good way, like a ragged kind of like they're having fun. Like it's a very fun version.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like to me, the Manfred Mann, while there's some good parts to it, it's taking itself kind of seriously.
Yeah,
And
it is. It is definitely like very serious.
yes,
Which
whereas the Bruce is
the
not.
whole album is like, oh, this is important stuff, you know.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention too on this Bruce version, you also get Vinny Mad Dog Lopez, who was on the first couple of Bruce records, and Harold Wheeler on piano. So, and of course, Bruce. Not a lot of other versions. Really, the most interesting other versions of it are Bruce.
Yeah, which is you turned me on to a couple of these that I did not know.
Yeah, particularly this Live in Dublin. A version of Blinded by the Light plays over the ending credits of the Live in Dublin concert film. And it is incredibly different. It's very blinded, baby by the light is sort of it's like a totally different feel to it.
Yeah, I think he might have his Seeger Sessions band. He's got horns, and it's like a old timey kind of version with you feel like the tuba going boom, boom, oompa kind of version.
It's almost different. Like a klezmer.
Yeah, exactly, like klezmer music. Yeah,
kind of exactly.
Very, yeah, absolutely, sort of gypsy type music is what they would say. Yeah. So, which, yeah, totally different version.
Yeah, so definitely check that one out because that's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Couple other covers. There's not a lot of covers of this, I think, because
how could you after the number one hit?
Exactly. So I did find Eagles of Death Metal has a pretty good one, man. And they are clearly saying douche.
There's no doubt. They're just going with it. Going with the douche. Okay.
Yeah. There's a Wild Long Dance remix version of this from Funkstar Deluxe.
Okay. I'm sure I'll check that one out.
And then a 2012 version, Nektar, Joakim Svalberg, and Ginger Baker. That's right.
Wow.
And you can clearly tell it's Ginger Baker. So that one's kind of cool. I like that one. But there nothing too, you know, even if you don't like the Manfred Mann version, you got to give them this. They don't just copy Bruce's version.
No.
If you know me and my affinity for cover versions, I really give me something different.
Mm-hmm.
Give me something wildly different. Bruce even gave me something different with that Dublin.
With his own, yeah.
With his own, which he doesn't do that a lot. I mean, mostly, I think it's because his songs are so adored that he doesn't want to like go wildly astray from them. Sure, you'll get an acoustic version here or there, but you know, people want to hear Thunder Road the way.
Exactly.
You know.
Well, it's way different than if you think of another famous cover. Well, it wasn't really a cover because she co-wrote it, but Patti Smith's version of Because the Night is another. She wrote it with Bruce Springsteen. His version sounds a lot like hers, pretty similar sound, whereas these two couldn't be any more different in terms of performances. So
yeah, no joke. No. So so I guess I'm giving Blinded by the Light, Manfred Mann's version, more of a thumbs up than you are. You're probably giving it a thumbs down.
I wouldn't go that far. I think I've been worn out by hearing it too many years on classic rock radio.
That's the other thing that we could talk probably a whole episode on the what classic rock radio does to the listener, which is just wear you out on the same 200 songs.
Yep. Cycle day after day.
If there's some good things about, say, Mississippi Moon, Won't You Keep On Shining on Me, or Black Dog, or there's about 10 songs like that I've
Carry
heard
On so My many, Wayward Son.
Exactly. That I've heard so many times that it's just like there's nothing more to
no
there's no gold to pan out of it.
No,
you know, it's like we've heard it too much.
Yes. So trying to keep that, even if I keep that out of my ranking, I would say I'd give this kind of a medium, a middle thumb here.
Yeah.
It's because I appreciate what they're trying to do, and I like some of the musical touches. I think it got distracted too much. Yeah, not that one. I think
Ask me if I needed a ride.
it got bogged down by the lyrical goofiness and adjusting the lyrics, and just the pomposity of it became too much. But
I also like the ending. They were gonna make it through the night.
Yeah, just ends like that. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, I like it. I think there's some cool things about it, and there are also some lame things about it.
Chopsticks.
It is taking itself too seriously, but I enjoy it, and I think there's some. I admire the gusto to which they took a song and changed it to match their style that they were going for. And this record's riddled with a lot of, there's a couple instrumentals on this, and it's not overall it's not a bad record. It's I'm not saying rush out and get the roaring silence because of the ugliness of the cover,
despite the cover. Yeah.
So yeah, and the Bruce version, I think we both agree is pretty good, and
yeah,
maybe
definitely
not one of his top all-time songs.
No, but it's a great way to introduce. It's the first song on the first album, so this is kind of, we're going to see a lot of the same themes and same sounds for the rest of his career, even to this day. So it's a good starter.
And of course, Dave has the Eagles of Death Metal version on his Super Troopers 2 soundtrack album.
Absolutely, it's one of my favorites. I've got all their albums, so they're just tremendous.
Well, we'll be back again. As always, please subscribe if you enjoyed this. Give us a like, and tell us in the comments if you like the Manfred Mann version or not. Which do you prefer, the Manfred Mann or the Bruce? And if you heard the live in Dublin version, what do you think of that? Or any? And please, if you know of any other cover versions of any of these songs, please let us know. I dig the depths of the.
For those who don't know, Chris is like he can find them in the crust of the earth. He finds cover songs that I've never heard of, or of groups never knew existed. So if he can't find it, I know there aren't many. So you probably found all of the existing ones.
Yeah, I just brought up a couple, but yeah, I go through so many boring cover versions. It's like, good God, people, do something. And if you're a musician out there and you're thinking about covering a song, do something different with it. Good God. Don't just copy. Don't just give us the same music and the same everything
with just a different voice.
With just a different voice, it's like you're never gonna win that game. Give us something like really like unique and really spectacular. Wow me.
Yes. So wow, Chris, please. Yeah.
So. Who am I? You guys? You do what you want. Do what you want. You're the musicians. You know what you're doing. I don't know how to do it. So, but if you like the show, like and subscribe. Tell your friends. If you hate the show, tell your enemies. And we'll be back again with a song or an album or a career very soon.